clays that I have created. I have this one that I just demoed on, and I'm letting it dry out a little bit. But this one I've created, this one doesn't have any textured surface or anything. What I plan on doing is some sgraffito with some underglaze that I will demonstrate a little bit later. But I want to open this up. So I need to figure out, what do I want it to circle and just have a coil coming out like that. I'm not quite sure. I need to make it. There we go. I'm not quite exactly sure. I could do a triangle as an opening as well. And so I need to cut and pierce through the clay in order to do that. I do have bags in this form that I'm going to show you how to remove as well. So I drew the line in, and now I'm going to cut through. Now this is fairly leather hard, so I am going to have to use a little bit of elbow grease to get this to cut through. I'm using just a needle tool to cut through the clay. Now you can probably hear my needle tool getting stuck on some of those bags. Okay, once I've pierced through the clay, then I can carefully remove this. Now, we don't want to misshape our opening. We don't want to misshape our form. So as I'm doing this, I'm doing it very carefully. This takes a lot of patience. Usually once I get one removed, then the other ones kind of easily come out. I got a little bit of seam popping open, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to reinforce that now. I bet you that's the seam that I wasn't able to reinforce when I put that on here. And I'm gonna try to get a coil in that seam. It's very difficult to see, so I may just have to put a little piece in and finagle it into that seam that just kind of popped open. Now I'm going to clean up this area a little bit, and then I'm going to start rolling some coils and kind of make a little bit of a neck for the top of my form. All right, so that looks pretty clean. And so now I'm ready to roll some coils. Again, better success for rolling coils is standing up. Now, the diameter that I'm shooting for is kind of like my pinky. I have a little tool here that's probably a little bit too thin, but probably around there somewhere. If I go too thin, I'm not going to have enough clay to hold up my structure. So I don't like to go super skinny on these. All right, so if we compare, that coil is about the same thickness as my pinky, so I feel like that's a good distance. So before I join this, I'm actually going to score where I'm going to join. So I'm going to score a little bit around there. And I'm going to slip. Join my coil. I'm going to start in that corner, and I am going to press firmly. I'm kind of sticking my finger in here, squeezing a little bit. I'm going to pinch my coil a little bit. I really want that shape to be seen, so I'm just pinching here to kind of keep that shape of the opening. And then I'm gonna pinch the two pieces of clay kind of together to join this coil. Now I'm gonna have to do some smoothing, and I also have to make a decision. Do I wanna do one coil at a time, which takes longer, or do I wanna keep wrapping this around, which takes a lot less time? I actually like the wrapping around method. It's more organic, which is why I like to use coils, but you'd have to decide for your own. Before I wrap around for my second layer, I am actually going to smooth on the inside. So I'm smoothing my coil onto my vase where that opening is, and that'll ensure that it doesn't fall off. We don't want anything falling off, especially at this point. We've invested way too much time on this thing. All right, so I'm now going to continue on. I want to pinch this a little bit just so I can have that little crease, kind of a little point. Now I want my vase, this part, to kind of go up. So on this side, I'm going to lay my coils on the inside part, and then up here, I'm going to go on the outside. So then I'm kind of having this thing kind of curl up. All right, now that ends that coil. Now before I roll another coil, I'm going to smooth the seams in on the inside. I'm supporting the outside of my coil as I smooth so it doesn't misshape too much. All right, so this is what I have so far. I love that I can see the coils on the outside, and then I have its smoothness on the inside, making sure it's sturdy. All right, so I need to roll more coils and continue making this come up. All right, so this is my side profile, and I like how that's coming up, but I feel like I just need a little bit more height. All right, so now I'm at the perfecting stage. I feel like I'm happy with the curves that I have happening in the profile. So now I just need to do some perfecting, and then my last step is going to be thinking about my surface treatment, which I plan on adding underglaze to the surface and then doing a little bit of sgraffito, but my cleanup process needs to happen. So I have like some imperfections that are not necessarily going to be covered up by the sgraffito, so I need to do some smoothing and perfecting before I add my underglaze. All right, so I have cleaned it up, and this is what it looks like at this point. One thing I do want to think about is how does it sit on a surface? I did clean up the bottom too. Don't ever forget to clean up the bottom. But maybe I don't want this to be the bottom that sits on the surface. Maybe I want to add some feet to the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do next. All right, so what I think I'm going to do is just add kind of little spheres or balls for the feet. And so I need to roll some that I think are proportionately appropriate that will support the thing, but not to look too bulky. So maybe something like that might work. So I need 4 of those. Now I always like to compare. If one's a little bit big, then I just pinch a little bit off and re-roll. And try not to over-roll because it dries out really quick. All right, those look about appropriate. They look proportionate to each other. Whenever you're rolling a ball, always have it in the palm of your hand. currently these are round, and I'm gonna need to make some sort of flat surface to attach. So I'm gonna go ahead, try not to misshape the rest of it, but tap on the table just to have a little bit of surface that I can score and slip onto the bottom. Now I can't overemphasize the importance of scoring and slipping these on. If you don't score and slip them on, they're gonna fall off. And then what do you do, right? So let's make sure that we are scoring and slipping. So I'm gonna do these first, and then I actually have to do where I'm gonna attach on my base. Usually overscore on the bottom, meaning I'll do a wider area than what I think I need, because typically the slip will just smooth it in anyway. Or I can clean it up after I've attached. All right, so now I'm gonna slip. Now, if your piece is really dry on the bottom, which mine is pretty dry, I will say, it might be good to score and slip a couple times to get that slip into the surface of the clay a little bit further. So I'm going to do this process twice. Don't use too much water. If you use too much water, your entire foot is just gonna turn into one big goopy ball. So just a fingertip of slip is good on these. And these are plastic clay, so they're very moldable, which you only need to do this once. I am ready to attach. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure. Remember, I want these to be a little bit flat on the bottom so it doesn't rock all over the place. So once I get them attached, I'm going to put the whole thing up, and then that will level out the whole thing. So I'm just pushing them into where I want them to be for right now with a little bit of pressure with my thumbs. Now, that's not enough to keep them from falling off. I have to blend seams. If I don't blend seams, more than likely they will fall off. Now, these are tricky seams. I like to use a device like this because that's such a small little area. And so I can just take and drag around, and that'll blend the seam very, very well. So my foot stays where it needs to be. I'm gonna have to rotate this to get into the interior crevices. Sometimes you can't reach all the spots, just get where you can. All right, so I wanna make sure this is level. I have blended all my seams the best I can get it. So now I need to gently bring it up and put it, and just put it, I do a little bit of pressure just to level it out because I don't want any wobble wobbles once it's completely dry. And then I'm gonna let these feet dry a little bit before I let it sit up.